With all the injuries the 49ers have had at wide receiver this season, should they consider an old nemesis? I don't know exactly what you would call him, but a weird name has surfaced with the 49ers. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the original Gold Standard podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Levin Black. Happy Wednesday.
I thought you were starting to do like a little new voice there at the beginning. You started out like slow and deep, and then you got back into your like fast-paced, high-pitched.
I don't know. So, I'm an unpredictable man.
Yeah, you're like, welcome to the original Gold Standard.
Hey, you know what? I got to keep people on their toes. Last thing we want is to be boring. I'm just trying to pull out all the stops, okay? Big show tonight. A weird name has come up with the 49ers wide receivers, which I think tells you just how desperate they are for literally any warm body at this point, but we'll talk about that. The joint practice with the Raiders is coming up tomorrow, which is interesting for a variety of reasons. We can talk about that. The stupid thing I did on Saturday, I'm sure you're going to want to make fun of me for that as well. So we have a full show today on the program. I did not think we would be starting here, Levin, but I woke up this morning and I'm checking X and I'm looking at the news and I'm seeing stuff about Odell Beckham Jr. and Odell Beckham Jr. is retiring. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sort of makes sense. And then I'm seeing Odell Beckham Jr. post things on X about, no, I'm not actually retiring and I'm working out. And if I was retiring, you knew I would be retiring. And then I saw a tweet from Tom Pelissero that said not only is Odell Beckham Jr. not retiring, but that he has drawn interest from, quote, several teams and plans to play somewhere in 2025. Given all the injuries the 49ers have at wide receiver and some of the names that they have been shuffling in and out, do you want Odell Beckham Jr. on this team in 2025?
No, not at this point. I think if you get into the season and it's, aiyuk had a setback and Jennings or Pearsall are out long term, then I think maybe you get desperate. But at this point, I love the vibes going into the season. I don't want anything to disrupt that, and he is somebody that very much could disrupt that. It's not exactly like he's been somebody that has kept his mouth shut if things are not going his way or if he's not getting targets. I will say, I did my family fantasy football draft last night, and I'd forgotten he was out there. And when I saw him in the list, I thought, well, that would be an interesting idea to bring in if they don't get healthy here soon. And that was Amari Cooper.
Well, here's the thing. The 49ers do not want to pay any wide receiver a lot of money. I don't know what Odell Beckham Jr. would want in a free agent contract, but
I don't think he can demand almost anything other than that minimum at this point.
Well, that is the question. Or though he could say like, then I'm just not going to play, right? I mean, that's his alternative.
That's fine.
The Niners signed somebody today, Malik. I can't even remember his damn name because that's the point where they are with bodies, right? We are rotating in. Malik Turner is the guy they signed. He's been on the team multiple times. Receivers keep getting hurt, and they keep shopping at the Quintez Cephas store, quite frankly. They don't want to bring in Amari Cooper because he's going to cost too much money, which is essentially what Kyle Shanahan said this week. I would rather see Odell Beckham than Malik Turner. I'm sorry, I would, just because there might be a shred of something there with Odell Beckham Jr. There's nothing there with Malik Turner. And if they're going to cost about the same, why the hell not at this point?
At this point, I am not there with you. If you're talking regular season and we're still in this injury quandary, then I can get behind that. Yeah, Malik Turner is not going to do anything for the 49ers. It's completely just we need somebody to fill out our practice kind of body. Right. It's not a game body. It's literally a practice body. If you get towards the regular season and you're still having that problem, now you need to get somebody that can actually contribute on the field during a game. And I think that becomes a different scenario, and you maybe get a little bit of desperate and throw a little bit of money at somebody. But like I said, Odell Beckham Jr., so unprofessional. Jeez.
Sorry. I have it on Do Not Disturb, but it's like linked to my computer somehow. And it
yeah. But Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, his last stint, he did virtually nothing in. So I don't think he's anything past a vet minimum at this point because with his experience, I don't know the exact number. I'm going off of previous year, but it would probably be around, it would be between like 3 and 3.5 million, somewhere in that range. Like it would be a very expensive vet minimum. So I don't see why you would spend that now. You got to wait until you're truly desperate and regular season is going to get affected. But at that point, like if you could get Amari Cooper for 5 million or Odell Beckham for 3, I want Amari Cooper.
You're right about his stint last year. He played 9 games for the Dolphins. He had 9 catches, 55 yards.
Yeah. I was going to say 55 yards on 18 targets. He only caught half of his targets, and he only averaged what would that be? 3 yards a target? That's insanely low.
It's not good.
That's worse than running backs, put it that way.
Is that better than Malik Turner? Well, I don't know. Malik Turner hasn't appeared in a regular season game since 2022. And they already have one of those guys on the roster in Russell Gage, who also hasn't appeared in a regular season game since 2022. I'm just saying they're taking flyers on guys. Like they're signing anybody, right? Now, Odell Beckham Jr. is old. I get the chances that he does anything are slim to none. I completely understand that. But slim, I would rather take over none. Wouldn't you?
When the regular season comes, yeah. I'm just not at that point now. You give me another 3 weeks where they can't even fill out roster, and you might not even be able to run a true 4 wide receiver set. Yeah, you get rid of a guy like Malik Turner, who's going to be gotten rid of when rosters shrink anyways, and you bring in somebody that you know can at least step on the field and do something, at least knows what's going on. You know what I mean? Like Malik Turner's probably not going to know what's going on. He's not really all that experienced, even though he did play some in the past.
Nicholas LaRocca says Levin's my favorite gold standard guy.
Yeah, see, we got some smart listeners.
That's a slap in the face to everybody. And then there's this also. Mike Florio, or is it? Yeah, Florio from ProFootballTalk.com points out that the Dolphins cut Odell Beckham Jr. after the trade deadline last year, and nobody signed him. No playoff team said, hey, let's get Odell Beckham Jr. on board, right? And maybe try to make a run, catch lightning in a bottle. Nobody did. So now all of a sudden, people are interested. Maybe this report from Tom Pelissero is, a favor, essentially.
Yeah,
that is
I would imagine it is a favor to an agent. I wouldn't be surprised if he's been contacted by somebody, but I would imagine it's teams did their due diligence of, hey, would you sign for the vet minimum? Yes. Okay, we'll call you if we need you. Like that's about as far as I think it would have gone is we'll call you if we need you. We just wanted to make sure it's an option.
But wouldn't you rather have him now so he could learn the system? I mean, he played with McDaniel last year, so maybe there's not that much of a learning curve. I don't know. It's
no, because if you're looking for somebody to fill out the roster to be able to run 5 to 10 routes a game. You're not looking for a starter here. If you're looking for a starter, you need to probably trade for somebody.
Yeah, no.
Or sign like Amari Cooper. I could see maybe possibly being starter quality still. He did kind of bomb out in Buffalo. And if you're bombing out with Josh Allen as your quarterback, that's probably why he's still unsigned.
He was better than Odell, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Tim Kawakami said the Niners basically don't want to spend money on any wide receiver. Kyle Shanahan said, well, we don't have as much cap space as it looks like we do. Yeah, it looks like you've got top 5 space in the league, Kyle. So forget that argument. They could sign him if they wanted to.
Actually, the Niners, I saw the other day, I think they're the only team in the NFL that is over the cap in 2027 as of now, because that's when Purdy's contract explodes. And there'll probably be a change that changes all that. But in 2027, they are currently over the cap. So like next year, they're okay-ish. But the year after, they got a nightmare on their hands that there will have to be some tough decisions made because that's when the quarterback becomes expensive. So spending now does affect that to a degree because of the rollover.
Well, I'm looking at it. I think you're misremembering because Brock's cap hit in 2027 is 30.8 million. In 2028, it's 57.6. So are you thinking of 2028?
I could be. It was It was like a blurb in an article I was reading about the
Mhm.
Niners, and it said the Niners do have some tough decisions to make. They're the only team in the NFL above the cap. Yeah, it was like a one sentence blurb that was not the main part of the article. I should have gone and looked, but I didn't actually think it would become a topic right now. So I did not go and look and figure
Mhm.
out the numbers.
Yep. Calls himself the talent and then just spouts off random things that are not true.
Well, I'll go look at it and see where it's at.
I just looked it up.
Not now.
This is our time.
Exactly.
Grand Sport Jew says Odell's still better than Malik Turner without knees. Man, poor Malik Turner. What the hell did Malik Turner ever do to anybody? But it just, the fact that we're here, the fact that we're even talking about this is a product of all the injuries that the 49ers have had, particularly at wide receiver. I mean, we get one back in Jacob Cowing, hooray, and immediately, boom, we lose Jordan Watkins for a month with a high ankle sprain, which, by the way, probably means he can't play week 1.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was one of my two takeaways from the preseason game was, well, Watkins is an NFL quality wide receiver that should be somebody that has, at the very least, a role on teams for quite some time.
And hopefully he will, but I mean, this is a bummer. And, I was talking about this with Steph Sanchez yesterday because I was filling in with for Jason. There's the silver lining is like, hey, the Niners haven't lost any players to season-long injuries, which is all true. But just because the injury itself isn't necessarily long-term doesn't mean that the effects of that injury are not long-term. And what I mean is Jordan Watkins is going to miss 2 preseason games. He's going to miss the joint practice. He's going to miss all that development time and all that learning. And that is going to affect him for the rest of the season because you don't catch up when you miss that time. So people might say, oh, he'll be back in a month. No big deal. But it is a big deal.
It's a bigger deal for non-veterans. Young players and players that are new to the scheme are people that need to be able to be in camp. That's the situation. And the Niners are, unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of young players that are getting practice time that normally wouldn't, but they're young players that aren't going to amount to anything.
Like who?
Like the people that are replacing.
Oh, yeah, Quintez.
Yeah.
I mean, God, we can't even. They sign Equinemius St. Brown off the street. Then they cut him. Then they bring him back. Then he gets hurt. He's done for the year. They the guys that they're picking up are getting hurt. I think there's a voodoo curse on Levi's Stadium, or maybe just the practice field. I don't know. I think there is some sort of juju there that they need to exercise.
I do think that they should be doing some kind of study, one on the type of turf. Do a report. I'm not actually 100% sure the type of grass that they have on the practice field. Is it different? Is it one that's found? But I do wonder how much of effect of it is location based because of weather. It's very warm where they're at. How much is that affecting them? I don't know, because I mean, it's not like they're the only warm climate. Like Miami players don't have this problem. Well, they kind of do, but not as long as the Niners. But there's got to be something at this point, because they have changed training staffs 3 times in the last 15 years that this has been going on. I don't think it's a coincidence that the massive injuries seem to have started with Levi Stadium and that new practice facility. Something is off there that's causing it, but it's not something that I think is a common thing. It's a little more outside of the box. That's why I said, I want to see a weather study and things like that. What is it? Because there's something.
I don't know. Michelle Madchuk asked a couple of weeks ago, what's the water made out of? Which made me laugh because we know exactly what water is made out of. But at this point, check everything, man. Check everything, because they are rotating wide receivers in there. They're rotating defensive linemen in there. By the way, come on down. Damone Harris and William Bradley King, 2 players that I didn't know were in the NFL. Guess what? You're now on the 49ers, and you're probably going to have to play a bunch on Saturday.
Yeah, it's weird because a lot of these injuries, they're not good, but they're not like major injuries. It's not, oh, this guy broke his fibula or, something big like that where it's like, oh, that guy's gone. It's a ton of these injuries are, well, this guy will be back pretty soon, maybe by regular season.
Right, which is good, yay, but still.
It's hard to quantify though. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to react. Like how much is this truly going to affect the Niners? It might be zero. It might be massive because what you were alluding to, that just because they get back by regular season doesn't mean that it doesn't continue to affect them into the season because of lost time of meshing with Brock Purdy for the Watkins scenario, getting the timing down with your quarterback, learning the nuance that we know Kyle Shanahan's system is quite possibly the most difficult for wide receivers in the league to pick up. That does have a lasting effect, but at the same time, they're not major injuries. So I also find myself not worrying about them quite as much as I have in the past. It's a weird place to be.
I've seen this sentiment expressed by different people, not the exact line, but 4-1 Faithful on X says they lost the head trainer to the Atlanta Hawks a couple of years ago after the Super Bowl year. It's been strikingly notable. That is, I don't know who people are talking about, but it doesn't matter because this team has been in the top 10 most injured every year of the Shanahan tenure except one. So whoever the person is that you think was there that's not there, they had one good year. The rest of the years they were horribly injured. And oh, by the way, the Niners still know what that person was doing, right? Like they know the training programs the players were on, so they could implement a lot of that stuff. So I don't think you can just point to any one thing and say that's it, or this person left, or this person's here now. I think it's a combination of things, which is why it's been so tricky for them to track down. But I do think that they need to invest more in trying to discover what they can do, because this is unacceptable. This is the second year in a row that they really shouldn't be having joint practices. They're going to do it tomorrow. I don't think that they should. They can't even do one-on-ones in practice.
I think at this point it is safe to say it is not training staff or strength and conditioning staff related. I know people want to go there, and I've gone there in the past. But like I said, they changed it. I think they changed it in like 2014, 2015. And then they changed it again like a year after Shanahan came in, and then they changed it again just last year, I think it was. So they've changed it 3 times while these injuries, because it's not just the Shanahan era. They've had major injuries since about 2013. I mean,
Yes.
We're talking 12 years, but they've gone through 3 different training staffs. So it's not training staff. To me, it is either facilities or it is the way in which Kyle Shanahan practices. That is something that should be mentioned because we've seen players who left then come back and say Niner practices are extremely physical and harder than others. These, I forget, was that Tart that said that about Philly? It was one of those players that went to Philly and they ended up saying like, oh, Shanahan was a lot tougher on us when it came to practices. He wore us down. But then also I think some part of it could be just front office related. It's who they're bringing in, who they're targeting. I think it's a combination probably of those 3 things. Which one is the biggest deal? I'm not sure. I would tend to fall on it is facilities related because that's the only thing that is constant the entire time this has been happening. Like I said, this is not just a Kyle Shanahan era thing. It was happening before him with other coaching staffs as well. So that leads me to believe it's not front office and it's not coaching staff. They might have an effect. I do think the harder practices has an effect. I don't think it's the biggest thing. I think it has to be something with the facilities is off.
The Tart comment that you're talking about actually comes from an interview that Vish Kumaran did with him. And he told Vish, quote, I don't know what they, meaning the 49ers, did this past camp, but if we're going based off when I was there, I honestly thought Kyle Shanahan was saving our bodies. But just being with the Eagles, the short time I was with them, it ain't even close. So that was his read on the situation. I don't know. I feel like, they're adjusting practices. Like I said, they're not doing the one-on-ones anymore. For example, like they brought Cowling back yesterday, right? He did 8 reps. Like they're easing him in slowly. So it's not like Kyle just throws you in there and he's like, you're going to do 100%. Like they're trying. It's just what they're trying isn't working, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of it without somebody being able to get like in depth. I want to know what the practice facility is like. I want to get a player, like a former player on the record. That's what I would like to see. If I was a journalist chasing this beat, that's what I would be looking for. Try to find a former player that's willing to go on record saying, yeah, the 49ers practice field effing sucks. Or say the facilities that they have in the stadium suck for like recovering your body, like maybe they're cheap on certain aspects in terms of recouping and getting as close to 100% as you can, like maybe there's not enough ice tubs or, there's got to be something that is off there. And I would like to see an interview where like they, even if the interview it proves everything I just said is not actually it, get multiple players on the record, former players, talking about the facilities and the injuries and get them giving opinions on why there's so many. And if it's don't know, it's bad juju, something like that, that's fine. That would still be a great article. But that's the article I've been waiting to see for the last couple of years is go find former players and talk to them about the 49ers facilities, Shanahan's practice habits, and whether or not they think that contributes to the injuries.
The NFLPA study, remember that the grades that come out from all the players? I was just looking at that while you were talking because it's kind of what you're talking about. And of course, I got to zoom in now. But the Niners the training room was given a B-, which was 21st out of 32 teams.
Yeah.
84% of the players said they felt like they had enough full-time trainers. That was 25th in the NFL. 81% of the players felt they had enough hot tub space. That was 17th. Players mentioned that the sauna frequently breaks. I don't know that is a major thing.
Well, there was another article real quick about that training room. It might have been Staley actually that told us in an interview, but they were saying that the way that the training room is set up is it's not big enough, but where they put it like in the middle where it's surrounded all by, all the space around it is already completely taken up by locker room and other stuff to where there's no ability to make it bigger with the way they put it in and where they put it. And it's not big enough.
That has been a refrain, I think, that's been in this study that people wished it was bigger. The players felt that the training staff slightly contributed to their overall success, ranking them 25 of 32. Those are not glowing grades. And by the way, like Jed, if you've got money to, replace the stupid video boards, maybe just build an additional room. If there's not enough room and you can't alter the structure, just build a new one. Build a new one.
Build it and attach it. I don't care what it looks like.
Of course not. Nobody cares. It just came out today that the 49ers are the 5th, I believe, most profitable franchise in the NFL. Yeah. And, it was one of those hilarious articles, right? They're the 5th most valuable. Excuse me. I want to make sure I get that right. 5th most valuable team in the NFL at $8.6 billion, according to Sportico. However, this was the hilarious part. However, they ranked last in the NFL in net profit for 2024, earning just, according to the article, just $80 million. Whoa, man, we better hold some bake sales for Jed York. Just $80 million, Levin. That's all they made.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's also last in net profit. How?
High player salaries is what they say.
I guess they did do like, they moved, signing bonuses over to salaries, and in the Deebo Samuel aspect, they then got rid of that guy after they did it. So they gave him a bunch of money that they didn't need to give. But like last, that's surprising.
They still made $80 million.
I know. I'm just saying, like, last. That's kind of surprising. Look, it's a weird spot because, yes, they made $80 million of profit, but at the same time, if you're running a business and you say, hey, we're 32nd out of 32 amongst our contemporaries in profit, you go, maybe we should try to make profits higher.
But see, that's just like, to me, that's just such a weird way of looking at it. You made $80 million. I'm a small business owner, 11. If my business made $80 million, I don't care what anybody else is making. I made $80 million. It's, I don't know.
I don't think you can compare your business to a sports franchise of that level. It's different, or just like a major corporation.
It's $80 million. You know how much money $80 million is? It's an
It's
insane amount.
$80 million. That's how much it is.
Right, exactly.
That's kind of like Michelle asking what water is made out of.
Acting like the 49ers are somehow doing bad because they made only $80 million is ridiculous.
I mean, I work for Marathon Petroleum. If they had $80 million of profit in a single year, their stock would tank to nothing.
Yeah, that's ass backwards. $80 million of profit? What are we talking about here? Like, what kind of greed are we talking about?
Look, if I owned a sports franchise, I would spend every last dime of profit to win. But if you are a business owner, which I think you look at Jed York, he's a business owner. He did not buy the 49ers as a passion to go win titles. That's not where he's at. He might want to win titles, but he is somebody that took over the family business. You know what I mean? That is a family business. It's 49ers Enterprises. And they would look at it as, we're dead last amongst our contemporaries in profit.
So, like,
I'm just saying, like, if you're a business owner, you don't want to be last amongst your contemporaries as a business owner.
but they're not even like, they're not in competition with one another.
I get it. I don't disagree with your points. I'm saying there's just another point here.
I don't think there is. I'm saying there's not another point here.
I think there is.
Well, that's where we disagree. I'm just seeing this on X. I don't know what this is. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan was on Sirius XM NFL radio. I don't know what he said, but it's an audio clip, and I want to know what he said. So I'm going to throw it up on the screen, and we're going to listen to it together, and we'll see how it goes. Here's Kyle Shanahan on
this was our time. Jeez.
It is Sirius XM NFL radio.
When we got here in 17, we knew we had a roster that we really had to completely change over. And, in the first year, we changed 10 out of 11 guys on offense. Joe Staley was the only one who remained. And on defense, we did 8 out of 11. So we had a big turnover, and we did it all with we did it all with draft picks. And to me, you don't hit on every draft pick, but we hit on a lot, and we got some difference makers in there. And that kind of became the core of our group from 19 all the way till now. And we brought in a couple different people with Christian and Trent that we did through trades. But everyone else has kind of been homegrown and through the draft. And fortunately, we've been able to keep some of those guys. And that's, to me, the biggest difference between now and 17 is that some of these guys that have been here are still here. And we got a group of players, whether it's 5, whether it's 7, whatever it is, that are different makers, some borderline Hall of Fame players too. But when you look at the rest of the roster, that's what reminds me a little bit more of 17 and 18, that we need to add a bunch of youth. We need to get guys who are younger, so obviously we can afford to keep some of these players, also having to pay a quarterback and things like that. So whenever that happens, you do depend on young guys. But when you get young guys, it also makes it a little bit more built to last. And we're kind of in between in those areas, because when you got guys like Christian, guys like Trent, Bosa, Fred, there's a number of them. It's hard to kind of say that you're rebuilding, because you got guys there who can carry you. But in the NFL, it doesn't matter how good those stars are. You got to have the right type of team. And we know we got some young guys that haven't done it yet. But that's what's so big about this year. It's what's so big about camp is we're finding out a lot about these guys every day. And it'll be interesting who ends up being a part of our 53, which to me is more open now than it's been in about 6 years. But even on day one, that's not going to be it. Like week 1, I expect our team in week 12, week 13 to look a lot different than it did in week 1. And my whole goal is that we get better throughout the year and find a way to hopefully get into those playoffs. And once you get into those playoffs, then you got a chance at anything.
I agree with that. That's what we've been saying, right? Just find a way to get in, and who knows what can happen. And I think that's a realistic expectation from Kyle.
I mean, it is the situation that they need to get younger, and they were forced this offseason to finally do it because they had a losing season. I think it's hard to say, you know what, we need to get rid of these veterans who are contributing because they're getting too expensive, and we need to go with youth when you're winning, 10 plus games every year. It's kind of the Pittsburgh Steelers situation. The Steelers need a losing season more than any other team in the league so that they can finally hit reset.
Nah, I disagree with that. You can hit reset anytime you want. What is especially the Steelers example, I think is a bad example. What is the value of going 9-8 every year? Who cares? Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in a decade, but God forbid you can't do what you need to do with the team to compete for a championship because you might not go 9-8 the next year.
Well, I mean, you just said the exact opposite of that, though. You said you agree, just get in the playoffs and you don't know what happens.
Yeah, except he hasn't won a playoff game in a decade. The Niners
that's not part of that equation. The equation you said was get in the playoffs and see what happens. You're not talking about history. You're talking about future. The history of not winning a playoff game in a decade is not part of that equation. It's get in the playoffs and you don't know what happens. I don't fully agree with that. I think if you don't have at least an average quarterback, getting in the playoffs only hurts you. Like, tear the damn thing down until you get a decent quarterback. You don't need a dominant quarterback. It certainly helps, but I would say that you need somebody that's top 10 in the NFL. Otherwise, you're not going to win. It doesn't matter if you make the playoffs. You're not going to win a Super Bowl because there will come a game, usually the first or second game, because you're playing against other good teams where you need that quarterback to be a difference maker. And when you have a bad one, it's not going to be. And that's been the Steelers' problem is even at the end, Big Ben was not a difference maker. They haven't had a difference maker quarterback in over a decade.
But when I say get to the playoffs and anything can happen, I'm saying that based on Kyle Shanahan, who every time he gets there competes for a Super Bowl. They're in the NFC Championship game every time he gets to the playoffs. The reason that the Steelers, you can't say that about them, is because they have found their way into the playoffs at like 9-8 with some crap scrub at quarterback who's carried by a really good defense, and they can't compete with the meat grinder of teams in the AFC. And so they've been getting their doors blown in, but it's not that way with Kyle Shanahan because the difference in roster and because I think Kyle is a damn good coach.
If you want to make it specific like that, well, this 49ers team is good enough, just get in the playoffs and you'll see what happens. I mean, yeah, but that's not the same thing that you said coming out of that interview.
What?
At least you didn't make it clear, I should say. You were meaning for the 49ers specifically, you agree with just get in the playoffs and see what happens.
Yes, that's what I've been saying all along about this team this year. I've never wavered on that.
No, but you didn't say this 49ers team specifically. You said, I agree with that. Just get in the playoffs and you don't know what happens.
Well,
you're talking specifically towards one team.
Well, who else would I be talking about?
A general philosophy of sports, really. I don't think all sports is. Baseball is definitely just get in the playoffs and you never know what the heck is going to happen. But
I don't know if you're aware of this, but we do a 49ers show. So
we never talk about NFL trends or anything like that now.
Oh, man. I did not know that the Kyle Shanahan interview clip was going to send us spiraling, but yet here we are. Let's switch it up. Let's switch gears. We got the joint practice coming up tomorrow and obviously the game on Saturday. I didn't really talk to you that much about last week's game, but just,
or at all.
Taking into account everything that we saw last week, what do you want to see from the joint practice and or from the game from the 49ers this weekend?
No injuries. There's not much else to see. I think we saw enough out of Watkins, and then he got hurt, so you're not going to see him anyways. But I saw enough out of him in one preseason game to know that he's going to be able to contribute. I don't know that there's much else out there other than just don't get hurt. Like, what other player out there are you going, I really want to see this guy? Like, I guess I want to see if D. Winters can repeat having a really good performance.
I'm stunned to hear you say that. Like, what other player do I want to see? I want to see Ricky Pearsall. I want to see Jacob Cowing. I want to see Marquise Siegel if he continues to look as good as he looked. I want to see Alfred Collins. I want to see CJ West. Are you serious? Like 3/4 of the players on this roster, I'm chomping at the bit to see.
See, but I guess we never talked about my other takeaway from the preseason game because we haven't talked about that preseason game just because of the way it fell in terms of our schedule and when we talk. But the biggest takeaway I had was as long as the defense is mediocrely healthy, they're going to be fine because the Niners played 3 total starters between offense and defense in that preseason game. The defense, playing mostly backups, faced the number 1 offense for Denver and dominated them. So that tells me, okay, if the backups are capable of doing that, I know it's preseason, but like they dominated them. If the backups are doing that to a quality offense, then I'm pretty confident that the defense will be fine come regular season. And it also means that the starters will be fine and the backups were good enough to shut down a number 1 offense that's well above average. So I'm okay with depth in most spots on the defense. Safeties, have no idea what they're going to be, but depth on offense is non-existent. But because I'm confident in the depth that I saw on the defense, there's not much else I want to see. Like, I don't care can Burford finally have a good game as a left tackle? I don't care because I'm not counting on him. If he's playing, we're screwed anyways.
Well, you know what's funny? You mentioned Burford. I was listening to Tim Kawakami and Matt Barrows today on the 49ers Plus Minus podcast. And Barrows said if Andre Dillard looks good, who's now practicing with the 49ers, that Burford might not make the final roster, that he might get cut.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think him going to left tackle is an act of kind of desperation. Like, this guy has talent, but it hasn't worked at guard. Let's throw him out of tackle and see if he can be our backup left tackle. And from what we saw in that preseason game, it's not working.
Usually you don't move from guard to tackle.
Right.
You usually move from tackle to guard. Because tackle, I mean, no disrespect to guards, but tackle's the more difficult offensive line position to play. More is required of you. You got to be more agile. You got to be able to move more. You know, it's very difficult. And it's not a transition you see a lot of people usually make. But it is crazy that he might get completely cut from the team, depending on whether Andre Dillard, who got here 10 minutes ago, looks good. But I guess that's something to be worked out. It was just, when he said it, I actually rewound it. I went back and was like, wait a minute, did he just say that? So, I mean, I guess we're on Spencer Burford watch, baby.
I will say Law of All has a good comment down there saying kicker update. That is
kicker update. You may proceed.
All right, then. That caught me off guard. But I would say if Jake Moody misses a kick, they are forced to bring somebody else in. I'm not saying cut Jake Moody. I'm saying they have to say, nope, we got to bring somebody in to compete with him. We're bringing Joseph back. And in the next preseason game, we're letting Joseph take all the kicks to see if he can make them all. And if Joseph doesn't miss a kick in the last preseason game and they're still equal in practice, we're going with Joseph.
Well, this is the tricky part when you decide to keep Jake Moody. He's going to miss a kick this year, right? It's very unlikely that any kicker is going to make every field goal, right? Kickers miss field goals. But because of his history with the team and because of how much he struggled last year, his misses feel different, right? Because he has burned through the benefit of the doubt. He has burned through any leeway that he may have earned in any of his time with the 49ers. And so I feel like they are just asking for controversy by keeping him on as the kicker because he will miss one. It's just going to happen because kickers miss kicks. And yet people are going to be like, how could they keep Jake Moody?
I think you can build up quite a bit of benefit of the doubt quickly as a kicker. If you make 8 straight field goals and then you miss one, it's not something that people are like, oh my God, this guy sucks immediately. Usually, if it's a game-winning kick, emotion gets in the way sometimes. But if he misses one in preseason, then I think you have to say we cannot have a kicker costing us a game come regular season. We have to bring somebody else in and see if they can do the job.
The whole situation is crazy to me. I was mad that we didn't get to see Jake Moody kick last weekend because that was one of the things I wanted to see because, we actually got the kicker update yesterday from Mayoko. Oh, Jake Moody was 7 of 7 in practice yesterday. Yeah, great. He always makes them in practice. The thing
is that your voice on that damn thing?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
What do you think? Someone else made that?
It sounded familiar, like not you. I think the echo throws it off. It sounded like, I can't quite place it, but it's somebody from ESPN. But it threw me off. And then
Yeah.
the second time I was listening to it, and I was like, that probably is him.
It's me from ESPN. I still
Oh,
work there.
yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be hosting on ESPN Radio next Saturday. So yeah, I'm from ESPN, and yes, it is my voice. But the point I was referencing is that Jake Moody has to kick in the games because that's when he misses. It's not in practice. Everybody raves about him in practice, but the offense was so putrid on Saturday, they couldn't even get into an area where even Kyle Shanahan could cart Jake Moody out on the field.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about in preseason sometimes, we got to factor, we got to factor an offensive situation. They do like a mock 2-minute drill with the starting offense sometimes. You've seen things like that in preseason. Okay, we need to factor a field goal situation. I don't care if it's 1st and 10 from the opponent's 30-yard line. Go out there and throw him out there for a 47-yard field goal. And guess what? If he misses it, go find a different kicker.
I don't know where they draw the line, right? Because like I said, he's going to miss. And how do they decide, well, is this just a miss because everybody misses, or is this a miss where we have to make a change? And I don't know what is going to go into that decision. It's crazy to me that this is where they are, but
I'm going to take you into a Wayback Machine, and it kills me to say Wayback Machine because it's coming from my own memory, and that means I'm old. But you know what formed my lack of patience when it comes to kicking? Like I value kicking massively. I do not understand why teams don't. Yes, it's a kicker, and people like Jason want to say that's not really a football player. Okay, but it's literally the guy that's going to lead your team in points scored on the season. It's kind of important.
I agree. It does matter. I always say kickers are like lawyers. Everybody hates them until you need them.
Take a guess at what formulated my opinion on kicking is massively important.
Jose Cortez?
Nope. Before that,
Wade
Ritchie.
Oh, Wade Lionel Ritchie.
It used to drive me nuts because he sucked. And and it was like right around the period where I started watching their games consistently because the internet had kind of come about and they were on TV a good bit there in the late 90s. And obviously I'm not in San Francisco, so I didn't have the capability of watching them all the time when I wanted to. But yeah, I watched multiple games that he cost the Niners missing field goals, and it like that formulated my opinion of why the heck do teams not do this? It's still in the college. College teams can't find kickers to consistently make field goal, and they spend zero resources scouting it. I don't understand why. If I was a mediocre college team, meaning I make bowl games, but I'm not quite a ranked team type of team, I would say I'm assigning one of my guys that do recruiting to go scour the country and find the best kicker every single year so that I know that I will be able to make 55-yard field goals, and it will get us an extra 2 to 3 points every single game because so many teams can't do that.
If you are a 49ers fan of a certain age, you have no idea who Wade Ritchie is. He was with the 49ers in 1998. He made 66% of his kicks that year. Then the next year, in his defense, he made 91% of his kicks and led the league. And then he was with the 49ers for 2 more years and made 68% and 65%. He was terrible. I don't know what the hell happened in that one year where he couldn't miss. He was 21 of 23, but every other year he was brutal. We've had some brutal kickers. Jeff Chandler, Wade Ritchie, Jose Cortez. It's been dicey.
Yeah, David Akers that last year was
he's horrible.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
He got like the yips when it came to his kick all of a sudden after setting a record for field goals in a season.
Yeah, he made the most because Jim Harbaugh loved to kick field goals. Super conservative Jim Harbaugh. But anyway, Wade Ritchie. Did not think we were going to discuss Wade Ritchie on the program today, but
he's burned into my memory.
Speaking of misery, Levin, see what I did there? That's professional level transition. You discovered something on ESPN.com called the Misery Index. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, so they got this thing that they make it like it's an AI bot, but it's not an AI bot. They weighted certain things. They don't really explain it. And they have a bunch of the different sports leagues. I mean, they even have the MLS in there, for instance. And you select all your teams, and then it will give you like how miserable has your sports fandom been. However, you can go then look at individual sports leagues to see how they ranked all the teams in that league. And I looked out of curiosity, where are the Niners? And I vehemently disagree with where they're at, but I think you'll probably disagree with me on that. But then there's a second part that just fundamentally completely disagree with, and it's not an opinion, it's just straight up fact. The first part is that they have them, I think it's the 8th best rated, meaning they've had the least amount of misery in the and this goes back 15 years. I disagree with that because losing 3 Super Bowls in 15 years is about as big of misery as you can possibly get.
It depends on how they're weighting this thing. If you're talking about teams that are just flat out bad, missing the playoffs, Browns level bad, where you're winning like 4 to 6 games a year, that's a different kind of misery than what the 49ers have experienced. The 49ers have been, in terms of regular season wins and playoff wins, extremely successful. But when you look at heartbreaking losses and devastating losses, that is where, when you talk about misery, right? Misery is getting to a Super Bowl in 2012 and engineering what would have been the biggest comeback in the history of the Super Bowl at that time, getting to the 6-yard line and not being able to close the deal, right? Misery is going to the Super Bowl out of nowhere in 2019, getting a 10-point lead on Patrick Mahomes and the machine that's the Kansas City Chiefs, and then blowing that and losing by double digits in 2019. Misery is going back to the Super Bowl in 2023 against that same machine, and that same quarterback is having a 10-point lead in the second quarter of that game and blowing that and losing again to that team. That is a different kind of misery.
So you agree with me then that the Niners should be very high in terms of having the most misery in the NFL?
I don't know how they define it.
And we're talking 15 years, so we're going to 29 or 2009 basically.
Right. I have the quote unquote luxury of rooting for a team in the Seattle Mariners that is usually not very good. Now this year they're very good.
But see, I know they didn't weight it this way, but I think they just misused the word misery. Don't use the word misery. That is completely different than what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about how much success have you enjoyed, I think is basically how they did this ranking. But the Mariners, you're not very miserable with them because you don't expect them to win.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you didn't rudely interrupt me, you're not miserable because you've scabbed over, right? Like, you can't hurt me anymore. I live here. Like, I don't expect that. There have been multiple seasons where their year is over by May or June, so you're not miserable. So it's different. So yeah, the word they chose there is interesting. They have the Niners at 25th. So that's not very miserable.
Before I get to the other part that I just fundamentally disagree with, take a guess at who is the most miserable NFL franchise. Who's at the top?
It's got to be Cleveland.
Nope, I think they're third.
Well, who is it?
Jacksonville.
Huh. Because they never really compete for anything?
They had the one good year with Bortles.
Yeah, the Bortles in that defense where they actually probably could have beaten the Patriots.
Whereas I think Cleveland has 2 playoff years in the last 15. So, like, yeah, I can kind of see it. I know the Raiders were 4th worst. I'm trying to remember who second was, and don't remember right off the top of my head. But the other part of it that I disagreed with is that in the last 15 years, and I went and counted to make sure, they have the Jets, which the Jets do. I would put the Jets at the top because they do get their hopes up.
Yeah, they have both. They have the crappy years where nothing goes right, and then they have like the Aaron Rodgers year, for example, where he runs out of the tunnel, he plays 3 snaps, and that was it.
Yeah. And then they have the butt fumble. I guess actually that might be pushing past 15 years now. Thinking about it.
That was a preseason game too, though, wasn't it?
I know, but you know what I mean? They have things that are like infamous in sports history now that are negative for them. But the other part that I disagreed with is there are 3 Super Bowl winning teams in the last 15 years ranked below the Niners, meaning that they're more miserable. It's like, no, if you won a single Super Bowl, you are automatically to be ranked better than a team that did not win a Super Bowl, because that's the name of the game. If you won a single Super Bowl, I don't care if the other 14 years you were picking number 1 overall, you should be ranked as less miserable than any team that has not won a Super Bowl.
Right. They have the Ravens as a more miserable team than the
Which
49ers.
makes no sense. They're in the playoffs all the time.
They beat the Niners in the Super Bowl in 2012. The Packers obviously won with Aaron Rodgers. The Giants have 2 Super Bowls. So
No,
yeah.
they only have 1.
Oh, with the 15 year. Yeah, okay. But
yeah,
still,
the last year in it is the Giants.
You won a championship. Yeah, so I agree. The Broncos are behind the 49ers. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They won with Peyton.
All the other teams are the Super Bowl winners.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. And are we going to be miserable this year, 11? That's what I want to know.
If we don't win a Super Bowl, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't expect them to win a Super Bowl this year. It could happen.
I don't expect them to win a Super Bowl either, but you talked about scabbing over.
Mhm.
I would say no, Mariners are scarred over. It's done and over with. Scabbed, it's still there. You can still pick at it and it still hurts.
Well,
That's where I'm at with the Niners. Like, just win a damn Super Bowl. Like, I remember, and I'm sure you do, one of the biggest bragging points the Niner fans had for years was first to 5, and we've never lost one.
mhm.
When the Cowboys got number 6, okay, the Cowboys have more, but the pushback to them was, yeah, but we were the first to 5 and we've never lost one. They've lost 3 now.
Yeah, it's that was a big thing forever. Was, hey, 49ers never lose Super Bowls. And I remember thinking that in 2012 as they're going down the field and Kaepernick is taking them down the field and they get to the 5 or 6 yard line. I'm like, yep, we don't lose Super Bowls. We're doing this thing. It's going to be the biggest comeback ever. Colin Kaepernick's going to have engineered the biggest Super Bowl comeback ever in his 10th career start. Think about that.
And then we got Greg Roman.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And now, yeah, they're losing. And we'll see what happens this year. But boy, this has been a festival of a show today, hasn't it?
I mean, there were other teams on there that I think you would probably, having talked to you now about it, would agree with me. Like the Cincinnati Bengals were more miserable than 49er fans. I don't agree with that because, yeah, they haven't won as much, but in the last 15 years, they've gone from literally the worst franchise in the NFL to one that's kind of respected to a certain degree. They've turned that tide. So like the last 15 years is the best 15 years in their franchise's history.
Yeah, they have had periods where they have been a team to be reckoned with. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl in 2021. But even when it was Andy Dalton, like they were going to the playoffs. That was the whole thing with Marvin Lewis, right? It was like, hell, he goes to the playoffs every year. They just couldn't win a damn playoff game when they got there. But there's levels to this for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would have the Niners. I would put them in the bottom 5 or top 5, I guess, for most misery, because they are the team in the last 15 years that should have won a Super Bowl and hasn't.
Yeah, I don't even want to.
Yeah, exactly. Right there shows you how miserable it is, to where the Niners have a legitimate argument for being the most miserable, because Jacksonville Jaguar fans, except for like a 1 or 2 year period in the last 15 years, didn't have their hopes up. They're kind of like the Mariners. The Niners have had their hopes up almost the entire time. They've gone through the Kaepernick saga. They went through the early retirement saga with Chris Borland and Patrick Willis and all of that. And they've lost 3 Super Bowls, 2 of which they very much should have won, if not for really stupid blunders, meaning Greg Roman and Burford saying, I'm not going to do my responsibility on this play.
The only silver lining to come from all this upheaval that we experienced this offseason with everybody, the bloodletting of everyone getting cut and all of that stuff, is that no one is ever going to talk about the 49ers now as, the best team in the league, the uncrowned champion. All that talk is over with, which thank God, because I always hated it. It always drove me nuts. And now no one is even saying it anymore. That is the only positive to come out of all of this. And good, because I was at my wit's end with that.
I think that's one of the all-time backfire things to have been said. We're the uncrowned champion. And then they went out and they fell on their face right after saying that. Like, shut the there's no such thing as an uncrowned champion.
Well, I don't think they ever used that term. The first person I remember saying it is Vish, But Aiyuk on the first episode of Debo's podcast, him and Aiyuk are talking about, oh, yeah, we were the best team, even though we didn't win. It's like, no, you weren't. The best team is the one that wins.
Well, yeah. I don't agree with your statement, but the team that lost should never say it. The best team is not always the team that wins the Super Bowl, but the team that lost the Super Bowl should not be going out there and saying it, because all it does is look like being a sore loser.
The teams that win don't have to say whether they were the best team.
Yeah, nobody's going to remember years from now.
The Chiefs don't say we were the best team. They just look at their trophies. So I'm glad we're done with all of that. Just seeing on Twitter that the Chargers have canceled their joint practice with the Rams. They have not held any starter reps this week. Maybe their injury situation is as bad as the 49ers. I haven't been keeping track of that. The Rams got their own injury problems.
They got the July 4th injury this year. Najee Harris damaged his eye, and I think I saw that he is finally running now.
Well, and they lost Slater, their left tackle, for the year. I mean, his career might be over because he tore the patella, which is, that is that's the injury that, like, we're not even close to being able to. That is a complete coin flip whether you ever get back, and it might not. Even if he gets back, it could be 2 years really before he can return to performance.
Yeah, he has a lot of incentives though to try.
Well, yeah, they all have a lot of incentives to try. Harbaugh could be gone by the time Slater comes back.
Yeah, I will be intrigued to watch the Chargers this year, just to see, like, I almost feel like they could be in a situation of Greg Roman is past his prime. Like, I'm really curious, can he keep it going? Can he make that run game succeed enough to where, all right, people aren't talking about how the offense is just screwing him and Greg Roman's past? Or is it a Jimmy Ray situation of, like, why is this guy still an offensive coordinator?
All I know is Justin Herbert threw 23 touchdowns last year for the Chargers. How do you take Justin Herbert and turn him into a 23 touchdown quarterback? I don't know.
And that's with hitting on their first round draft pick of a wide receiver, Ladd McConkey.
I don't know. Chargers got their own issues to work out, but this isn't a Charger.
The Chargers Charger. And there's a reason why that's a saying that everybody knows.
That's true. By the way, we'll see them in the third week of the preseason when Trey Lance makes his triumphant return to Levi's Stadium, baby.
I know it's not a Charger show, but they're still, to date, the only team I have seen to lose the game in victory formation, because Rivers fumbled the snap. It was an early snap when he wasn't ready for it. They fumbled it. They lost it. The other team went down and scored. Still, in college, high school, pros, it's the only time I've seen a team that's officially in victory formation actually end up losing.
Well, remember the year they were number 1 in offense, number 1 in defense, and didn't make the playoffs? Yeah, good times for the Chargers. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio pods. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get our YouTube subscribers up. This isn't the New Heights. Oh, did you see there were 1.3 million people watching Taylor Swift on the New Heights podcast? 1.3 million.
Hey, Taylor Swift, you want to